Right, so this morning I'm changing the brake pads on Mrs. 2007 CRV, Honda CRV. Dead easy to do. Give yourself an hour to get your tools out, get it all packed away and stuff. Minimal mess, all that business. Easy to do on your drive. Anything I will say is I've already watched some of the footage. I know I'm panting, and it's not because it's hard to do. It's because it's freezing. It's 0 degrees this morning. It's really cold. Alright, so just changing the brake pads on a 07 plate CRV. Dead easy job. This is probably the easiest brake pads I've ever done. Quickly, the tools and stuff. So torque wrench on the left, big pry screwdriver, ratchet, breaker bar, G-clamp, some copper grease. You need some copper grease, and for this I needed a rag and like this is from a Calpol thing, but you need some kind of syringe to excess brake fluid out if someone's topped it up incorrectly. And then of course your pads. Don't need a torque wrench really. I recommend that you do because the book says you should do, but you don't need one. Right, let's get the car jacked up. So for jacking up, I don't tend to go for the jacking points. It's up to you, mind. I tend to go for, if we go under here, you can see the first bit of the subframe. So I go for where the arm mounts the subframe. If I get that jacked up for you, let's see. Help if I knock the jack off. Okay, so that's where I get it. I get it off the floor and then I'll start cracking the wheel nuts off. So what I tend to do is once the jack's like in position, as soon as it's got some of the weight of the car, I then go and take these wheel studs off. So for that, breaker bar and a 19mm socket. I use an impact socket because it's a square drive. And also if you've got locking wheel nuts, you'll need one of them. Easy bit. Well, it's all easy. Right, next we'll focus on getting the caliper off, which is only one bolt at the top, one bolt at the bottom, and I'll show you for a bit of a closer look. I've got a brick behind the rear wheel. Just stop it rolling back. It's in gear, it's four-wheel drive version, and it's also got the handbrake on full tight. The car's not going anywhere. Feel free to give it a shake. That jack's solid. You'll need a ratchet with oddly a 13mm piece. Again, I've used 6-sided. Straight it's 13mm, normal little Jap stuff's 12 and 14. But anyway, the bolts you're taking off, that one there on the arm of this caliper, and then exactly the same at the bottom, it is that one. So I'll pop the camera back up and I'll take them off. I'll do in the same motion as well. Put a screwdriver in this bit. There's a screwdriver. Put a screwdriver in there, so when the bolts are out, we'll just apply a gentle force in that direction, push it that way, and that caliper will come straight off, dead easy. Okay, that's planned. 13mm socket on your ratchet. You can check it's going in the right direction. Hold it in your hand, should be silent going left. That way. It's a bit sometimes difficult to remember when you're going backwards or behind you. Get nice steady. Just got to tap mine, it's a little bit stuck. I was had to loosen everything off before I took them out. And you can run them out with your fingers from that point. Right, screwdriver in the top. See how easy that is. And just pull that away. There we go, that'll come off. Only two fixings holding that on. And this is the piston it we're pushing back. Mine is not in bad condition, thankfully. Just check your rubbers aren't all degraded or torn, or got any brake fluid around. And then I'd recommend popping that up here, somewhere secure. No creases, turns or bends in that, and you don't want the caliper weight hanging off it. And then your pads aren't even held in, they've just got these little clips. You can just with your fingers just tap them away. Actually quite a bit left on there, a lot more than I thought. So it's got an advisor on MOT. Same with that one. Remember which way around these come off, because this little bar here, all it does is when the pad wears down, I don't know if you can see actually, is when that touches the disc, it makes that horrible squealing noise that you may have heard, which is the reason you're doing your brakes. But this is nowhere near that. This is like 2 or 3 mil off. So, oh well, I've got new ones. It's an easy job. I'll show you the new ones. The new ones, you can see massive difference in pad thickness. Right, so now that's all done. Just need to clean off, see if there's any dust in here. You can use your gloved hand. I don't recommend using non-gloved hand, or you can use your rag and some spray. Some brake cleaner, that is, not the WD-40. Just get all the dust out of there. Your new pads should slide in perfectly fine. So, if you get your new pads, I would recommend always comparing the pads to the ones you've took off before you unwrap them, because often they're wrong. And you will also need this copper grease here. It's this copper grease. You need a tiny amount. People put them in different places, but all I do is a touch on the entrance to that valley, touch there, same on the back, a bit there. You don't want loads of this on, because if it goes on your brake pad or your disc, it'll ruin the effectiveness of your brakes. And then I put a little bit on that edge. You can see that. Just a tiny bit. Any excess, just wipe off with your rag. So I'll pop that one in first. This one has to get the back. Yeah, has to get the back because that pin hits one of these arms. But also, if it is your back one will be pressed against that piston. So just kind of offer it up, see what it's going to be like. And then this has got like an anti-squeal pad on anyway, but I just put a bit of that on anyway. Spread that out a little bit better on the back. That should take away any horrible squeaking noises. Say should. Why not? Wipe off the excess off there. Right, I'll show you the front one of these a little better. Pop it back in. But basically, in the bottom one first, tend to wiggle it around at the top, slide straight on, dead easy. Wipe my hands. So I'll show you that in a little more detail. One brake pad here. A touch of the copper grease on those edges. Get it out of this. Right, and then you'll see the curve of that. We'll follow the curve of your disc. You'll pop it in the bottom one. Just go around this little structural bar, and then put a bit of angle on it, and in, and then squeeze them both together like that. Get all copper grease all over your fingers on the back one, and then I do the same again. You know, on the back pad, if that pad goes against your piston here, well, the front one's going against these two arms, so I just kind of offer it up, just have a quick look. Okay, yeah, I'll put a bit on where I think them arms are going to go. I've done this before, but it doesn't really matter that. Just spread it out a bit. Should be fine. When it gets compressed, it'll all squeeze out anyway. The only thing, like I say earlier, don't get that on anywhere near your pad face or anywhere near your disc. Otherwise you'll have to cover it all in brake cleaner again, unassemble it. Right, what I'm going to do now is just, obviously you've seen the bonnet's open, is take the lid off the brake reservoir, which I'll show you. Brake reservoir is this one at the back. So what will happen is, you take the lid off, this is quite full. That'll probably be full because someone has incorrectly filled it up. You know, the pads have got low in the past. That level has dropped. So, what I was going to do, I'll grab this. Take that lid off. Now, don't leave the lid off when you don't need it to, because brake fluid absorbs moisture out the air, and the more moisture your brake fluid gets in, the worse. Oh, wrong way. Come on, 100. Yep. I'll just take a bit of this excess out, and then I'll dispose of that. I'll come back, I'll get that a little lower, and then I'll show you how to push the pad back. So back at the caliper, what I'll do now is get your G-clamp. See, where's my brake pads? The old ones. Right, use an old brake pad, and then turn this over if you can without putting a twist on it. on the line, pop your old brake pad in, G-clamp. So luckily on these ones, I mean most are the same, they've got this cut out, so that's for that. You just wind that back out until you can get this flat surface here on the flat surface at the back. On this one, the flat surface at the back is actually the head of the banjo bolt for the brake line, but that'll be fine. That won't work on this end, but on the back it's perfectly fine. So all you do on this caliper is gently tighten that back. You just keep winding it in until the caliper to the piston is about all the way back in. It's dead easy. You can feel it moving. It's really smooth. And the good thing about using an old brake pad is it means you're keeping the piston in level. So you can see there, it's good job I come up and checked. You see how much that's overflowing. I'll drain a little more of that out before I carry on. That is about there anyway. Okay, so I'm going to drain a bit of that excess out and then I'll come back to you. So I've drained that reservoir out. There is a maximum fill line just there. The only problem with that is I've took it it's just above that, sorry, just below that, because the car is on an angle, so I've jacked the front up, so you can see the back level is actually a little higher. And also when I put my foot on the brakes for the first time, that will drop because I'll have pushed the piston back that bit too far. So hopefully, just to show you again, because I don't know if it caught very well, this is how I'm using the mechanism. And just turn that up, it just pushes that piston back. Dead smooth, don't rush this, and you can see where I've mounted at the back, and that'll do you. If you get back to about that, that'll do. So if I put my knee on it, rest that, undo that, take this away, don't need that again now, take this old pad away, that in the old box. Okay, so now to remount this caliper, and that again, CRV, dead easy. What do you do? Take it out, shake it to get rid of all that old dirt. On the back first is how I do it, just slide it over the front, and then you will have to push them pins back, you know where the bolts come out of earlier, just push that one back a little bit, push that one back a little bit. They're really smooth. If they stick or really rusty, which it shouldn't be because they've got a rubber boot on, but if the rubber boot's torn, then you're going to have some trouble there. You'll have to take them out and you possibly replace them. You can replace the rubber boot, they only slide straight out, so they're dead easy. So here's your bolts, put them back in where they come from. Might take a bit of wiggling. That one didn't, went straight in. Run it in with your fingers, same with the bottom one. Run it in with your fingers. Now this one is where your torque wrench comes in, because it does say in the Honda book that you need 29 foot-pounds. So 29 foot-pounds, we'll come on the back of this camera. I don't know if you can see that. There you can, right. So this is my torque wrench. You can see on the right hand side, yeah, foot-pounds on the other side, Newton meters. So on the other side there, you got 20. So what you do is rotate the whole bottom half till you get to past 20. Oh, hold on, I've gone the wrong way there. 20, the marker is there, so you go get the 0 to the 20. Then for 29, you just rotate it again until 9. So you see 8, that'll be 9, and then you can just lock off that bottom edge. So take that, run these all the way in with the fingers. You should not use a torque wrench as a ratchet. So put the ratchet to them. That's run up. That's run up. And then hopefully got enough leverage here. Pop that in. It's a way oversized torque wrench for 29 foot-pounds this is. But it'll work because its range is 20 to, I don't know what its range is to. Just get enough swing on it now. And you will hear it click. So just, there you go, that's it. Click. Sound. It's really not very tight, 29 foot-pounds, isn't it? That's them on, and you'll see the caliper is all nice and loose because I pushed that piston back too far, which is what it's supposed to do. I'm going to go around, press the brake pedal, and you'll see that tighten back up. I'll press it a couple of times, so there'll be loads of compression needed. So they're checked, that's all nice, pads are secure, there's no copper grease on the disc or anything. You should be able to freely turn this. Being the 4-wheel drive model, it is in gear with the handbrake on, so that is not turning any more than what plays in the diff. But that's about it, and then we'll get the wheel back on. Oh, and we'll put the cap back on the brake rest. There you go, should have seen that now, should have seen that tighten all back up. Yep, there should be a little bit of play, and the wheel should move as before, which it does. That means there's no warping. This disc is in reasonable condition really. You've only got a very small lip, about, I don't know, about half a mil. I don't know what the acceptable gauge is, but that's fine. And there's no like pitting or scoring anywhere around it, it's just got a little bit of a groove. Those pads will see us for another couple of years, at least. Now, I'll notice, I'll try and do that one last, because you shouldn't put, well, I've heard, you shouldn't put as much torque on a locking wheel nut, purely because you might strip off that pattern in the nut. You shouldn't do, and we'll see how it feels. I'm still going to do it last. Yeah, feel the click a lot better now. Brake pads, only thing to recommend now is, when you first roll the car back off the drive, you might not have any brakes. You should do, because I pumped the pedal as you saw it tighten up, but it's just something to be aware of. And you're all good.